Spiritual freedom is when a responsibility is removed and gives us more time to do the things that we really want to do or like to do, that are of a spiritual direction. Even though you realize it may be the best thing to do for both yourself and the children. What does life require of us? To be able to survive, to go out there, have the experiences of life, learn from them, and become better spiritual beings. And by becoming better spiritual beings, becoming more self-sufficient, able to handle ourselves in one crisis after another, and even in the good times, this is moving you towards spiritual freedom in this lifetime. As you have more spiritual freedom, you have more happiness and independence. And this is what we're looking for.
What am I still holding onto that divine spirit may be asking me to release? Is it fear? Is it control? Is it disappointment? Is it an old version of myself that no longer serves my spiritual growth? Because perhaps spiritual freedom isn't found by escaping life. Perhaps it's found by growing through every season of life. Hi, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my Journey Faithful Compassion Hub. If you are new here, my name is Beatrice, and this is a place where we journey together exploring spiritual truths that can help us grow in love, wisdom, and a deeper awareness of who we are as soul. On this channel, I enjoy listening to the timeless teachings of Harold Klemp and reflect on them, not simply repeat what has been said, but to share what has touched my heart, what challenged my thinking, and how these insights can help us grow in our everyday lives. Whether you are a student of Eckankar, or from another faith, or simply searching for deeper spiritual understanding, I hope these reflections can help you pause and look within and discover the guidance that the Divine Spirit is already offering in your own life. If you were with me last week, our journey into spiritual freedom continues today.
Spiritual freedom, what basically is it? I think in everyday terms, it's pretty much what parents feel when their last teenager leaves home, okay? What I'm getting to is this. Let's give another example. Or a teenager who turns, let's say, 16 or whatever age it is in your state and gets a driver's license. This is a degree of spiritual freedom if you ask the teen. Spiritual freedom, a driver's license. And then later, of course, the parents say spiritual freedom when that teen leaves home. Spiritual freedom. It's a little bit of it. Spiritual freedom is when a responsibility is removed and gives us more time to do the things that we really want to do or like to do, that are of a spiritual direction.
As I listened to this part of Harold's seminar, I realized that spiritual freedom isn't only about the way we see life. It also has something to do with the way we move through different life seasons, the responsibilities we carry, how spiritual freedom can begin when soul learn to let go. As I continued listening, I realized something I've experienced many times while listening to Harold's talk. The same seminar can speak to me differently every time I hear it, not because the words has changed, but because I have changed. As soul grows through life experiences, new understanding begins to unfold. Perhaps many of us, when we hear about spiritual freedom, our minds think of free of suffering, free of pain, free of fear. But Harold gently introduces another way of looking at it. He speaks about responsibilities, seasons of life, and how freedom comes when one chapter ends and another begins. Then I found myself asking, what responsibilities am I still carrying that soul may be asking me to release? Sometimes they aren't physical responsibilities. They are emotional. Old regrets, guilt, fear, the need to always control everything, the need to always be understood, the need to hold people that have already begun a different path. Perhaps spiritual freedom isn't only about gaining something new. Perhaps it's also about learning when to let go. And that thought stayed with me.
I got a letter from my daughter. She graduated from school last year already. I can't believe it. When I heard she was going to graduate, I said, thank God, because if you're a parent and have a child who's been not very interested in school and just teetering on the edge of graduating or not graduating. You can understand what it means, thank God, because if the child doesn't graduate, then it's like a baby robin in the nest, and the parents have just been running themselves ragged, using up even their own food and all their own resources. And if you've ever seen parent robins, they get pretty thin by the end of summer. Why? Because they're chasing around all over the countryside trying to get food for their young. Well, it's pretty much like that with parents and children too. Parents run themselves ragged, use up all their resources, and of course, who do they do it for? These ungrateful fledglings, you know. And so when, in a healthy family, when the children are finally ready to leave home, the parents say, "Oh, sure, I'll lend you some money if it'll get you out of here." Yeah, sure. Don't forget to write. But you understand, at the age of 18, I'm not going to send you money. And you won't get the huge amounts of money you did at your birthdays before you were 18. 18 is the cutoff date for unlimited financial aid. And so this takes a while to soak in sometimes, as you know. It may take a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. But just the thought of someday going back to life the way it was before you had children, you say, boy, there must really be something to look forward to. And just the thought of it gives you this feeling of lightness and happiness. You know, I'm stretching one end of the analogy here, because if you go the other side, then when the child finally leaves, then the parents are heartbroken. Suddenly the home seems empty, and empty of love, and how are they ever going to fill their lives with what? What are they going to fill their lives with now? You know, especially the larger the family is, the harder it is when suddenly the fledglings take to wing and fly off to make their own way in life. But when it happens, when the little robins leave the nest, then the parent robins are able to, I imagine, go out and to dinner sometime, not worry about being home at dark. I don't know what parent robins do. But it's the same with parents. But when this rite of passage occurs for the child, there's also a state of freedom that the parents reach too. It's freedom for the parents and freedom for the child. Now this is the way it should be, because this is basically what nature does. And the only group of creation that violates this principle more than the natural beings of nature, I think, are the human beings. Because if children have a good story, or if they know how to become professional beggars before their time, they know how to hang on at home, and any parent with any sense of humanity at all cannot simply throw them out the door, even though you realize it may be the best thing to do for both yourself and the children. What does life require of us? To be able to survive, to go out there, have the experiences of life, learn from them, and become better spiritual beings. And by becoming better spiritual beings, becoming more self-sufficient, able to handle ourselves in one crisis after another, and even in the good times, this is moving you towards spiritual freedom in this lifetime. As you have more spiritual freedom, you have more happiness and independence. And this is what we're looking for. Happiness, freedom, and I guess independence is the same word, but in a different way.
This part made me smile at first because it sounds humorous. But then I realized there's something very human behind Harold's words. As a mother, I understand what it feels like to hope, to pray, to wonder whether your child will find their own way. Sometimes loving someone means trusting them enough to let them grow through their own life experiences. And isn't how Divine Spirit loves us? We aren't protected from every lesson. Sometimes we are allowed to experience life because experiences becomes one of soul's greatest teacher. And that touched me so deeply. As I listened, I realized that this wasn't really a story about birds or children. It was about seasons. Every season has its own purpose. There is a season to protect, a season to nurture, a season to teach, and eventually a season to release. I think one of the hardest things for us as human beings is knowing when it's time to let go, because letting go can feel like losing something. But perhaps from soul perspective, letting go is making room for new growth. And that made me to stop and reflect on my own life. This may have the moment that spoke to me the most, because Harold reminded us that life isn't trying to punish us. Life is trying to teach us that every challenge, every disappointment, every unexpected season carries within it the possibilities of becoming something greater. Not because the experience itself is pleasant, but because of what soul can become through it. Then another thought came to me. Perhaps spiritual freedom isn't measured about how life easily becomes. Perhaps it's measured by how soul continues to grow no matter what life brings. As we close, I found myself asking a simple question. What am I still holding onto that divine spirit may be asking me to release? Is it fear? Is it control? Is it disappointment? Is it an old version of myself that no longer serves my spiritual growth? Because perhaps spiritual freedom isn't found by escaping life. Perhaps it's found by growing through every season of life until soul learn to trust divine spirit a little more each day. Thank you for walking this part of the journey with me today. If something in today's reflection spoke to your heart, I would love to hear from you in the comments. What touched you? What challenged you? And what spiritual lessons are you discovering in your own life? Until next time, please don't forget to like, to share, and subscribe. May the light and sound of God continue guiding your path. I love you all.